Hello, this is Terry from Fabric Junction in Sturgis, South Dakota. And today we're going to do a quilt that I call Chip and Dip. This is a great quilt to use up your stash, your scraps, your extra pieces from jelly rolls. Just a wonderful miscellaneous quilt and very simple to do. What you will need is a series of 2.5-inch strips that are your constant or your background, and then a huge stack of 2.5 by 5-inch rectangles. Just a huge variety to make the quilt that much more interesting. And what I do is I cut my 2.5-inch strips, I leave them cut that way, and then I take my miscellaneous 2.5 by 5-inch rectangles and sew them on the strip. So I line them up, 1/4-inch seam, and I sew. And I butt them up. Just one more. There. Once I have them sewn, I cut them apart. And I do line up my line across the bottom where the seam is, so that way I know I stay fairly straight. So we get it lined up and I cut them apart. Sometimes I have them butted up so close, but that's okay. So once you get them cut apart, then I press. And all of these, I've been pressing the seam away from my solid. Let's get that set and pressed. Now I'm ready to make my columns. And my columns will look like this. We will just take 2 pieces and sew it in opposite ends so that your background, your solid, whatever you're using for your constant is on the opposite sides. Again, a 1/4-inch seam, and when I have a huge stack, a couple of them here, I just take 2, whoop, get them lined up the correct direction, and I try to sew them all from the same. So if I start with this on the front, this on the back, I try to sew them all that way. That way when I open up I know they'll match. Not that this won't, it just, I like to be consistent when I sew, so I don't have to think as hard after I take them apart. But I just continuously sew 2 together. And then if you want, you can sew them in pairs of 4 and keep going that route until you get your 36. Your 9 columns of 36. Because I'm not going to cross this seam right away, I would actually sew these 2 together before I press. I do my pressing once I have my columns all sewn. So make your columns. Oh, this one doesn't want to match up with that one at all. Once you have all your columns made, then sew them together to each other in this fashion. And then you have your quilt. Your beautiful chip and dip, using up all your lovely scraps and miscellaneous pieces that you have. Thank you for watching us here at Fabric Junction. I hope you enjoy our new quilt called Chip and Dip.